Man, you gotta love Fox bodies. For that matter, you gotta love any hot rod, because I'm telling you now, you are gonna work on it. If you're building these things and you're modifying them, chances are you're gonna turn wrenches, especially when you really don't want to, which is tonight for me. Once again, we have a blown header gasket. But first, let me explain tonight's situation. Let's see. I just put the new belt on the car, a new pulley, new belt, and then I changed the exhaust out on it. And loaded a new tune in it. Also, tonight, I just went and bought some new spark plugs. I know, auto lights, but they're the gasket type. The heads that are on this car require gasket type spark plugs. And honestly, somebody had told me that before, but I overlooked it, didn't think anything of it. And then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I really need to check that. So I go today and I go get them. I reroute all my vacuum lines on the car. I get all the vacuum lines and all that stuff kind of tidied up and get them from where they're not running from, all over the place. So get all this stuff done. I'm like, okay, it's time to go drive the car. Load the new tune in it. And the tune is basically just a startup difference. That's all it is. Take it up to the gas station, let it idle, and I'm putting gas in it. As I'm putting gas in it, the car starts to stumble a little bit. Starts to kind of change idle, and it doesn't want to idle that good. I said, well, shit, what is this? Let's get in the car, drive it. It's doing great. The car's running fine. And I go to my favorite little spot, pull this thing down into first, and I'm going to do the AOD shuffle, Pull it down in first and mat it. And I mean, as soon as I mat it, a half a second later, it starts misfiring, just a dead miss. I continue to drive the car down to the end of the road. I turn around and I don't even get on this thing. I'm just like, well, screw it. Looks like I'll be pulling the freaking head off of it tonight. And I got to thinking, I'm like, this thing probably didn't even make 5 pounds of boost when that happened. It shouldn't have done that. It's got studs, if you guys don't know. Now, it does have the cheap 9333 gaskets, but it does have head studs, and this should be perfectly fine for what we're doing. That's not the end of the story, though. On the way home, I pull into the driveway. This thing starts just tap, 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 tap. Like, do we get a head gasket that bad to where it's actually blowing fire out like the side of the head? I'm like, oh my God, this is bad. I come home, I pull the thing up in here. I let it sit for a minute. Then I decided, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and start this thing up and let's just see what we've got here. So, I checked the oil, by the way, no water in the oil. I couldn't check the water though to make sure there was no oil in that because it was too hot. Anyway, I go to start the car up. I switch the key on, no fuel pump. You gotta be kidding me. I didn't even try to start it. So I pop the trunk. I'll show you guys where everything is set up at back here. This is my relay and that's my ground. So I could hear the relay click. So anyway, I wiggled the ground, wiggled the relay, go back up, fuel pump comes on. Car starts up and it's no longer misfiring. At this point, I'm like, man, what's going on here? Was it a fuel issue? Did the fuel pump get hot? Is the sock maybe too close to the bottom of the tank and that's causing it to kind of starve for fuel and get hot? Like, I don't know at this point. All the stuff's running through my head. By the way, I still don't know, just so you guys know. So, like I said, I drive the car and it does fine. It runs fine. I didn't get into boost or anything, but it's running fine. It's just got a header leak. So I come home and I'm looking around and I'm looking at the top of these gaskets. And everything looks great. Surely this isn't a blown head gasket causing this problem. Well, I said, let me put this thing on the lift just to make sure. I think you can see it down in there. It blew the back of the header gasket out. I mean, right in the very, very back here. You can see it right there barely. Always something, I'm telling you, with these cars. So, I ran a camera down into the cylinders. It's right over here if you guys don't know. I may have a little short video. All the cylinders look great. There's no water in the cylinders, none of that. Matter of fact, here are the spark plugs. Now, they're gonna look a little orange. That's because we were running a boost stain. Anyway, spark plugs look fine, but spark plugs also really, they've got to be tightened up. The gap's got to be tightened up. But it did fine. It never blew the spark out that I could tell. A little bit of oil right there. I think that's from the valve cover where it leaked down around it. So anyway, I have one gasket left, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this thing on. So, look, here's what I want to say. This shit sucks. I mean, nobody likes having to come out here and do this type of stuff. But here's my suggestion to you. If you're dealing with crap like this and you think it's the end of the world or you just feel beat down, look, guys, I'm out here, I'm doing the same thing. This shit happens. A lot of times I don't even video this. If I have a blown header gasket or even a head gasket, I just tear into it that night. I don't even video the shit. I might tell you afterwards or like halfway through the process, but I just get it, okay? Now I understand not everybody has the time or maybe the place to do it, but if you do have time, just go ahead and jump on it. It's just nuts and bolts. It's just time. If you have the tools to do the job, then just do it. Don't think about what it is that you're doing, especially taking shit off. Just take this stuff off, listen to some music, get your head somewhere else, and then before you know it, all the parts will be off the car. And now going back together, you need to obviously think about what you're doing. So take enough nuts and bolts off, and the parts will come off, and you can fix the problem. That goes for anything. You have to think of it that way. It sucks, and there's nobody here with me. It's just me outside on a Friday night. But you know what? I'd rather go ahead and do it because I can't sleep at night knowing something like this is going on. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to touch base with you on that. I'll probably show you the header gasket once I pull it off, and I don't know, I may show you the finished product on the car. I'll definitely let you guys know, though, what the misfire was, like why this thing had a dead miss. It could have been a fuel pump issue. It could be a spark plug, possibly. Maybe not on this cylinder, on this side, but on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and change those spark plugs out as well. But anyway, guys, I'll keep you updated. I'll let you know what's going on with the car. Let me include this. So I used to install auto glass for a living. That's what this tool is. This goes on like a Sawzall style tool. They call it the equalizer, as you can see right there. But anyway, you can buy these things off of Amazon or eBay. It's a windshield removal tool. I suggest everybody get one of these. They're fairly expensive, I'm not gonna lie to you. Here's what I have. So there you go, it's a 0.25R. Trust me, you need this in your life. You need this for everything, not just header gaskets, for any type of gasket material. This thing works awesome, and I'll show you guys exactly how I use it. Now, I did put a little bend on the end of it myself. Look at that. This thing works so good at getting down in here. This right here is a freaking lifesaver. I'm telling you guys, you got to get one of these. Obviously, this gasket's not really stuck or anything like that, but look at that. This gasket's ready to come out. Look at that. And there it is. I knew it. I knew it, you bastard. Also, these header gaskets are not big enough, as you can see here. Definitely not big enough. But they kind of burn themselves out. This is the same gasket. So look how much this has burned itself out. I really need to probably go ahead and try to cut these out, but this shit's hard to cut. Also, I want to show you guys another tip. So sometimes these header bolts can be really hard to get started. Not so much in the center, but on the ends, because the headers, they tend to want to fall down, and it's hard to see where the hole is. So now I'm going to use this little sander over here, this little Harbor Freight sander. It works great for this. Or you can use any tool that you've got to be able to cut this down. You can use a file if you have to, but I'm going to use this. I'll show you guys. So as you can see, I put a very big taper on the end of this, and don't worry about those threads. That's perfectly fine. This thing will screw right in, no problem. And what this does is it makes the head of the bolt smaller. So it's kind of like a lineup tool where you can stick it through the hole and it'll find its way in better than if it's just a blunt end. You don't want to do this if your bolts are already on the short side. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. And as always, remember, it's just nuts and bolts.